Hi there, I'm here with you today to show you a quick video on how you should clean your copic markers. I thought this would be useful to show you, and I had some gunky markers and thought it was perfect time to do a quick video, so here we go. Why do you have to clean your markers, you may ask? Well, over time, gunk builds up inside the lid. This can cause your lid problems to close, and the alcohol ink inside will evaporate and your marker will be dry just because you haven't cleaned them. The yick inside the lid of the marker can also transfer onto your brush nib or your chisel nib and cause that problems. When you're colouring, it will look very sticky on the paper and you can't blend it easily, and it can actually cause damage to your nib, and it's easier to clean your nibs occasionally and the marker and the lid than replacing the nib, because that's a bit more expensive. So what you need to clean your markers is either some copic cleaner fluid or alcohol, rubbing alcohol of 93% proof or more. You will need some cotton wool balls, some Q-tips, a couple of little dishes to put your cleaning fluid in. You will need some blending fluid to clean your nibs. I would recommend using gloves, but my last pair of gloves got a hole in, so I'm doing it without today. And you will notice if you don't wear them, you will get covered in lots of pretty colours of ink, which is rather hard to get out. And a couple of pieces of kitchen roll just to put your nibs on when you remove them from the pen. I've also put a Teflon sheet on my work surface to protect that too. Another handy thing to have is some spare nibs, just in case they break or they need replacing. So first off, I'm going to put some of this cleaner in one of my little pots. You don't want to put too much in because it evaporates quite quickly and the fumes are quite unbearable after a while. So to start, take one of the lids off of your pen, and you can see there is loads of gunk around the top of the marker barrel, and also inside the lid it has gone quite crusty. So first off, I'm going to dip my cotton wool ball in. I'm also going to pan in a second so you can see closely what I'm doing. Right. So you do not want to touch the actual nib with the cleaning solution, because that is different to what is inside the ink. Instead we will use the various ink blending solution to clean the nib, but around the top of the pen and inside the lid you will use the copic cleaner or your rubbing alcohol. So you just rub it quite gently, and pretty soon it will look a lot cleaner. So just very gently until all the crustiness is gone without actually touching your nib. And while you're at it, just quickly pop the other lid off and check this side is actually clean, and so is the other lid, so I'm not going to worry about that today. Then you want to get your lid and a Q-tip, which you dip in the alcohol, and you just put this in and rub and get it right in there until all the gunk is gone. All the build up. You may need to rub pretty hard. and use more than one end, hence the gloves, because I'm already getting covered in green. Another thing I do when I've got the worst of it off is to just get my cotton wool ball and squash it in there. And give it a good old rummage around, and then get the last of the yick out of there. I'll then get some clean cotton wool and kind of shape it so it's going to fit down there to get out the last of the residue and also clean out the alcohol, because you don't want to put the lid on when it's soaking wet because it will transfer to the nib. So there we go, from gunky to clean. And then you want to take, one sec, a non-soggy marker. And you will need your tweezers. They do some wide-nosed tweezers purposefully for taking the nibs out, and if you can, I'd suggest getting those. I don't have any. And you want to grasp your nib firmly at the very base and pull it out. If you do it too far up, you can cause your nib untold damage. Also, you will not need to take the nib out if it's not that dirty. You can just rub it with a lint-free cloth and a bit of the various ink. But what I do when they are really gunky is just put them in the pot with enough solution to cover it. You do not need much. And then you leave it to have a little swim until it is almost white in colour and all the excess ink and gunk has been removed from the nib. So I'm going to set that aside and quickly show you, while that's having its swim, how to refill your pens as well. So here I have my E000 marker, which is one of my skin tone markers, and I need to refill this one pretty often. Now, some tutorials will tell you to take the nib out how I've just showed you, but I prefer instead to take both caps off and remove the chisel nib. It is less hard to damage the chisel nib than it is the brush nib, and just as easy to refill it. So you pull that out and leave that on one side, open up your various ink refill, and depending on how dry your marker is, you'll want to put around 20 to 30 drops in. Some people also suggest that you do it until the ink runs from the bottom of the pen, but I'd rather put a bit less in and have to add more than have to scribble out all the excess, because that can lead to blotchy pens. So I just put this in the top, then gently withdraw it and drop her in the ink. If you can hear something in the background, that's my laptop trying to take off. So once you've put the ink in, you can just put your chisel nib back in and gently push it all the way back in, and then put the end back on. And I like to give it a quick scribble through to make sure the ink's flowing nicely, and that is working perfectly. Put the lid back on, and that's your refill done. So going back to this nib, a lot of the ink has come out of it and into the solution, so I'm going to give it a swish around and then get my kitchen roll out and give it a good old dry and a squash. Get all that ink and cleaning fluid out of it. And if you can see, you won't be able to see, but there is absolutely no residue on that, and if I'd have left it in there and perhaps changed the fluid, it would be a lot whiter, but that nib is completely clean now. So I can insert that back into my pen and I just hold it up for a little while to let the ink flow back through. And then, as before, just take a spare bit of cardstock and scribble through. And as you can see, the ink is coming out of there nicely again. And there is no gunge. So that is how you clean your markers. And I would suggest doing this when you see them get a bit gunky and not do it in one big batch, because that takes absolutely forever. So keep these things on hand and clean your markers, and you will see the results in your colouring and you will have happy markers. Bye!